Two Bowls in a China Shop is brought to you by these great companies that are giving us money to let you listen to their stuff.
Bullshit, Kyle. We make this show. You and me. Two Bulls in a China Shop is brought to you by us.
Someone's got to pay the bills, Dan, because it's not our trading.
All right, roll them.
You are listening to an entertainment program put together by a company called Financial Ineptitude. Anything said on this show is not an endorsement or professional advice. Would you really want to tell a court of law you were suing us because you thought taking financial advice from two idiots on a podcast put out by Financial Ineptitude was a good idea? Really? Clown hat smiley face. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the China Shop. I am your host, Kyle, and joining me this week is the vivacious vagabond, Victorio Stefanov from TRADEPRO Academy. From TRADEPRO Academy. How you doing, Vico?
I'm doing well. I didn't think you'd get through that intro.
Well, I got a lot more to go. Before we dive into today's discussion, I'd just like to take a quick moment to say thank you to our sponsors and friends over at Manscaped, TRADEPRO Academy, and Orderflow Labs. By now, we all know Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, but did you know they launched a line of beard care products? Lucky for you, we have an exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping using promo code 2bulls at manscaped.com. As always, that is the number 2. And when it comes to institutional quality trading education, just keep listening to see why TradeProAcademy.com is the place to be. In our free Discord server, you'll also find instructions to take advantage of our discount with them as well. Just don't tell George. And for all you degenerates who enjoy trading futures, you'll definitely want to check out the custom tools and studies at orderflowlabs.com. If you enjoyed today's conversation, you learn more about today's guest by following Vico on Twitter at Torio Trades, or you can check out the aforementioned TradeProAcademy.com, or give one of the many other episodes we've done together a listen. And then lastly, be sure to reach out with your suggestions, corrections, or questions for future guests. You can do that via email at 2bulls at financialineptitude.com, or you can join our free Discord server where a bunch of amazing people gather to share our struggles and lessons learned with other like-minded market aficionados. All of those links will be in the episode description. Now that we got all that crap out of the way, we can find out what's going on with Vico.
Perfect. Thanks for having me on again. This is I don't know how many times I've been on, but always appreciate it. It's been a while actually, so this is good.
Has it been since the Festivus episode?
Is that like a year ago?
I think so. Over a year. I was going to try to do one this year, but we had just too much going on with the whole move. And I think you're in the middle of a move too, aren't you?
Yeah, I left Canada for, let's see, like a year. That's the plan. We'll see what happens afterwards, but I left at the end of September. Now I'm in Europe, just generally everywhere. I'm currently in the Canary Islands right now in Tenerife.
Oh, that's got to be the fucking dream. You can only do that when you're single, though.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, I am now single, so...
Oh, were you not single before that?
I was not single before that, and then, yeah.
Or is that how you got to be single?
It isn't, honestly, it isn't, because she moved to Europe as well. It just didn't pan out.
Gotcha. Well, what about TRADEPRO Academy, though?
Well, TRADEPRO Academy, like this, I was about to say, well, now I have more time to trade and do this stuff, the stuff that we've been growing here at TRADEPRO Academy. Now we got a lot of things that are getting launched at the beginning of this year, right? We've made a decent amount of changes, even from the start of the year, even right when January hit, we launched what we call this Inner Circle Masterclass. They're recorded calls on a set list of topics that were pre-launched, and the duration of this is 8 months, and I'm doing one for futures and options, and the premise is every week twice, or I should say every month twice a month rather than every week. Every month twice a month, we will drop a video on a specific topic that kind of builds on the previous one, available to all of our members. So with options, for example, we've talked about the overall macro situation. We've talked about selling credits, which is a big thing at TRADEPRO Academy these days. And then in futures, we've talked about like news trading coming into the Fed, and the importance of psychology and some strategy stuff so far. And there's a lot more to come.
You were also doing some like one-on-one stuff. I think one of our listeners was telling me about some of the stuff you've been learning working with you one-on-one. Is it Mark? I think Mark D.
Yeah. We've been doing some one-on-one. I've had a few Marks, and a few Mikes. So
yeah, it's a common name.
Yeah. So yeah, we've the premise of that is kind of just like breaking down pretty much how I trade, and I trade on like a larger scale, meaning not size wise, but like taking a larger view of the market to see if we can get those like 10, 20, 30 point moves,
Hmm.
which is based a lot on profiles, whether it's a market or volume profile, and also order flow.
Yeah.
I think those are just like the pillars of futures trading realistically. Order flow, I mean the DOM.
Yeah, the Dom has been my demon, I think. Like definitely I've been focusing a lot more on bigger picture for myself and using the levels that I come up with through the volume profile, TPO,
Mhm.
and just price action in general. And definitely saw an improvement when I stopped trying to take little scalps on every single move and started waiting for bigger levels.
Yeah, yeah. There's when you understand what goes on with like distribution. This is something that we've kind of drilled in at Trade Pro Academy over the past like it's been over a year now, but like it's been the main area of interest, the volume profile, and understanding how distributions and distribution theory works,
Hmm.
because it allows you to take like less risk for a pretty substantial move and keeps you patient. Like when you find a big distribution like the one we've been trading in for the past, I'd say, few weeks, between 4105 and 41 like 70,
Hmm.
it's like a 60, 70 point range where I see the top, I see the bottom, I know what I'm doing, right?
Right.
And it's almost like a no brainer. But understanding how those distributions form and how they work, uh, even through the depth of market and the volume profile, really allows you to have confidence in those trades.
So how do you use the Dom yourself then when you are focusing on bigger picture like that?
If I like, there's a few different ways I like to look at it. Obviously, I like to consistently scan it and see what the reaction is of buyers and sellers through moves.
Hmm.
So, like for example, if we're moving up towards a level, and on the buy side, there's a lot of market buyers, right? And there's larger orders, like maybe 200, 300 go through the book. And if they can continue buying with decent size to the upside, I consider that like a stronger bid, right? Obviously, there's going to be some sellers that try to kind of stop them, but it's how the buyers react to those sellers that try to stop them, right?
Hmm.
If there's substantial moves, I'd say like 2 to 3 points in either direction against the current trend, which is in this scenario up, then you start wondering, okay, well, if these larger sellers came in, maybe this bid isn't as strong, so on and so forth, right? That's just generally how I look at the market movement. When it comes into levels, like very key levels, I'll usually have like levels maybe 10 to 20 points apart
Hmm.
based on distributions. And I'll look for a big fight on the DOM realistically there. I really love stuck longs and stuck shorts where you just accumulate a massive absorption at a high or at a low, where you have like thousands of lots going through the book and they just can't continue their move.
Right.
And then you get this like reactive rejection on the DOM, and that's just perfect for a reversal. They're not as common, I'd say, but that's like probably the top trade that I would put most of my size on.
Right. So do you watch Delta then a lot too then to
Um,
identify those spots where people are getting offsides?
I wouldn't say like, well, it's a version of delta. It's like a volume profile kind of that's split between the bid and ask, so you can see like which one is overpowering. So a kind of delta, yeah.
Ah, okay, that's kind of neat.
It doesn't. It's you see both sides of it, so it's not like for delta, for example, it'd be like negative like 1,000, right? In this case, it'd be like 2,500 versus like 1,500. You know?
So you just see which side is the aggressor.
Yeah, exactly. Or which side is getting stuck at that area where there's like, let's say, like 3,000 shorts have accumulated at a low and it can't break. And you're like, okay, well, there's like a massive negative delta here and they can't go. And then the DOM gets a rebid. And you're like, okay, well, I need to be long at this point.
Right, right. Now you mentioned the renewed focus on psychology. That was something that I remember George being a big proponent of, and I think that was the basis of Mind Over Markets, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was. It's a huge aspect when it comes to trading, and it's a very, I think, difficult task to navigate and correct someone's psychology. And it kind of, I think, it more so comes within,
Hmm.
like identifying where your weak points are and where your strengths are. And like what I like to do is focus more on the strengths,
Right.
and try to minimize the weak points. Like the weak points, it's hard to break off a weak point. I think in trading, the best you can do with a weak point is just like push it away so it happens less,
Hmm. Right.
and then make your strength like really strong. so it kind of compensates for that. Obviously, there are some weak points where it's just like shit, I can't stop over trading. Then you have to set some hard barriers for yourselves, like locking accounts, blah blah blah, and just like forcing yourself to do those things, because if you don't take that initiative, then it's just going to continue, right? No one's there, no one's watching you, no one's sitting over your shoulder and being like, oh, okay, you can't do that anymore, right?
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. And that's why I think having just someone to hold you accountable, whether that be like a group that you're within, or maybe your spouse or a friend, just
Yeah.
somebody that you can like that's going to review the trades with you, and you're going to have to explain why you made a poor decision. Like that, just having that sometimes will keep you from making a bad decision. I've said it many times for myself. Like,
That's a very good point. Like having like a very good group of like traders slash friends, um, to that are obviously in it with you, like that do trade and are occupying themselves with this. Like it really helps as an accountability aspect.
yeah, I think I've said it multiple times on this program, but just being like having to share a shitty trade that I made on the good, bad, and the ugly, like knowing that I'll be having, do I really want to talk about this Friday? Yeah, maybe I'll pass.
Yeah,
Because a lot of times, you're doing something stupid.
yeah, exactly.
But man, it really is sometimes hard to just stop yourself in that moment. Like, how do you like keep yourself disciplined? Like, what is the things that you've put in place to keep you from going off the rails?
It doesn't really happen anymore necessarily, but like
Hmm.
before, um, I'd say like my weakest psychological point was a balance between just like taking trades at like bad levels if I get like stopped out, kind of
Mm,
like revenging into
yeah,
it,
yeah.
or like under trading. And the under trading part was kind of easy. I just like put one trade on like pretty much off the open just to have some kind of red or green on the screen there, like PNL. And it'd just be like two ticks, right? It's nothing crazy. Just like
Right.
get it out of the way, get the first trade out of the way, which was a little easier. I thought that helped. But for the over trading aspect, realistically, it didn't. The over trading aspect, honestly, it was like a weird spurt of like 3 months for me, and it just like it didn't happen before, and then it just like didn't happen after. But like what I did was um, I would actually like lock my account at like like max threshold loss.
Hmm.
So it'd be like, I don't know, let's say like a couple $100 or like whatever it was. And then I just like couldn't trade anymore for the day. Then I'd have that for the week as well. So
Hmm.
like if you have like 3 red days in a row, you're just like kind of done for the week. And then at that point you're like, oh, okay, well I can't trade. So I gotta review, work on this. And like the review was a huge, huge part. Like reviewing trades before the bell, after the bell, right? All the time pretty much. And just having that lock on the account really helped, because I was like, okay, well, I know I only have like 5 bullets today or 4 bullets, whatever the number was,
Hmm.
and it's like if this doesn't go well, like I'm kind of done trading for the week, you know.
Right. I want to hear more about the under trading. I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention that as being an issue.
Really, and so like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, they're just like a little more fearful of putting like a risk on the table, like when it
Hmm.
comes to trading sometimes, right? Or they'll get into a trade and like scratch it right away because like
Oh, yeah. Okay. That. Yeah.
subconsciously they just like don't want to be in the trade, which is like one of the things that I've been talking to our group about a lot. Like I've been telling them my perspective of like why I don't scratch, because like when I get into a trade, the risk is already defined, right? If I have a three
Yeah.
point stop, I have a 3 point stop, right? I'm willing to take that risk. That's why I'm in this trade. You know what I mean? So like, why would I cut the position short if I've already defined my risk, right? Because then
Hmm.
that screws up your risk to reward. Let's say you scratch and you do a good scratch, one tick, right? You lose only a tick, great. But then you scratch and you scratch like a 1 point winner that could have been a 10 point winner, and then the next trade you take a minus 3 point loss. You know, it just
Yeah.
the imbalance of your trades and your PNL and like the growing PNL at that point is just it gets too wild. Like if you can't scratch like an algo, then like you just shouldn't, in my opinion.
That's funny that you bring that up. That's actually one of the issues that I struggled with earlier last year, and I think it was discussions with Flary when we started our Back to the Futures mini series that
Hmm.
he finally like pointed that out. It took a while for me to realize it, but basically the analogy I came up with was okay. I save 2 points 9 times out of 10, but the 1 out of 10 ends up running for 10 times that amount.
Yeah.
What did I do? I just screwed myself in the long run.
Yeah, and even like even if it's not the runner that you screw yourself on, it's like the losses that you screw yourself on versus the winners, right?
Hmm.
Because like if you take like 10 trades, let's say, right? You take those 10 trades and 5 of them are going to be losses at 15 points, right? And
Yeah.
then 5 of them are going to be winners at, let's say, 6 points, like double it, right? You're up
Yeah.
still 15 points, right?
Yep.
But if you start screwing with that, right, and your losses, let's say 2 of them are, or let's say even 3 of them are 3 points, so that's -9, and then the other 2 out of those are -1s, right? You have -11, but then your profits are like +1, +2, like plus a tick, and it gets screwy very fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That was the cutting winners too early, I think, was my biggest issue. And since I switched to a focus on just maintaining a bracket, and then you know what, the bracket's going to do the job.
Yeah.
Once I put the trade on, like I'll almost walk away.
Like you define the risk, you define the profits. Like everything is already done. Like you just have to do the work to qualify it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. All the work is done by the time you click enter. Now it's just got to let it play out. You mentioned when you talked about some of the stuff that you guys are doing that you've switched over to selling options, is what it sounded like. Are you switching to more of a
Yeah.
credit
So like
focus?
v- before, like you got to adapt to market conditions realistically, and like I just found that going through like 20, 30, 50 charts on a daily basis was just like like it was a lot, right? To find like
Yeah.
options
Uh
plays
huh.
and like options plays on like a short period, they're they have a high chance of just resulting in a loss, right? Like I want to play to the strengths of what the options are meant for. So yes, we still do directional moves, right? Like for example, even yesterday we had a directional move on Nvidia, right? Puts that went like 100%. Right, but this
Hmm.
isn't a regular occurrence at TradePro anymore, where I'm just like going directional on random like names. I have a set list of maybe like let's say like 10ish stocks that I'll go through, and then I'll set up my levels for the week and look at them on a daily basis. And if they're trading at the regions that make sense, right, there's going to be a play there.
Hmm.
But for the most part, I look at the SPX, and I'll trade a little more directionally on the SPX. But I'll mainly, I think the majority of the trades now are either directional SPX or non directional SPX, where we sell actually premium because the market's changed, right? Yes, there are swings. There are swings in the market. A lot of them are due to news or they happen pre market.
Hmm.
But a lot of the time, especially today, in the first like hour of the session or so, you didn't go anywhere. The market didn't really move,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So when that happens and you're not getting a directional move and you can't find a stock that has a directional move, right? It's good to just use options for what they were made for, and that's to burn premium realistically.
Right.
So you just start selling 0 days to expiration because 0 days are lotto trades to begin with if you're going directional.
Hmm.
So why not just sell them to people that want to gamble with them, right? So
So how do you
you're
how does that change your risk management? Just out of curiosity.
well, so you wouldn't need a margin account naturally, and I think the risk can be a bit bigger realistically because what you're doing is you're still trading based on a technical basis, based on like volume profiles and whatnot, and you should like kind of identify where the market is not going to go for the day, which is again probably as difficult as understanding where the market is going to go for the day.
Right.
But it what I like to do is like with credits, with options, you can sell premium that's like very far away from price, right? And if you see like a big resistance or a big volume profile that like is expected to reject or hold, I'll be looking to sell put spreads or call spreads and just collect that premium. Like today, for instance, I was just like looking at this and they kept selling. A lot of indication was pointing to the downside.
Yep.
I didn't think it dropped like this,
No, me
but
neither.
there was indication to the downside, at least for like the morning session, where like advanced decline was dropping, a lot of tech was dropping, nothing was really running, IWM was dropping, and I said, you know what, I'm going to sell calls on retraces back to the upside on the SPX, right?
Hmm.
And realistically, like the premium that you collect usually is around like $1 to about $2 a contract, but the spread dictates how much margin you need for that. For example, if I do a $10 spread on the SPX, I'm going to need $1,000 of margin per each
Yep.
contract. So if you take $100, that's 10%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not necessarily risking the $1,000, right? But you're realistically probably risking more than the premium position would burn. And it depends on how you want to navigate that. Sometimes people are like, okay, well, it's getting like fairly red. I'll risk like 40, 50%, right? And then just cut it there, which is fine, right? And other times people look at it and say, okay, well, it's very far from the strike
Mm-hmm.
that I've sold. I don't necessarily think it's going to get there. I'll just let this ride, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're selling them far enough out the money, you shouldn't even really have to. It's very rare that it's going to hit you.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. If you're somewhat confident in the directionality that it's not going to be at your level, then like a lot of the time I just kind of let it fizzle out, because like as the day goes on, even if the price doesn't move, the theta burns and the position gains value.
yep.
Well, it doesn't gain value, but it gets closer to the max value.
Right. Well, better for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh, that's so like the win rate then definitely is going to be higher on something like that.
It's a lot higher. Like I think going into the new
Mm-hmm.
year, from like the summer, I think it was like almost 100%,
Oh,
which is, and I'm not doing like 30 of these a day, right? Like
right.
it's just like one a day, right? Maybe like 3 to 4 a week, right? Like I'm just looking to collect something that has a high probability of hitting, right? In the new year, the past, this hasn't even been 2 months, but it's been like maybe 80, 70%, right? And like some of them, probably closer to 80, but like some of them you just take the loss and you move on with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, with the better win rate, you can support a more skewed risk reward profile.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So some resources then to learn more about doing it that way, because I don't think most people start with wanting to sell options, right?
Yeah.
Most people start out wanting to, swing lotto 0 day
Yeah.
naked calls.
It is it is a lot more, I'd say, uh, difficult in terms of understanding what is going on, understanding the risk, understanding the margin. It's not. I would really, really learn about what credits are, what selling premium is, and what the risks and the margin involved in that is, because it can get really bad really fast if you're not very aware of what exactly is going on.
Hmm.
In terms of resources, realistically, off the top of my head, like we're in the midst of putting stuff out right now, because a lot of the education was just done like through our Discord and like whatnot,
Hmm.
for this specific trading style. But um, I'm sure there's a lot of resources on like YouTube and like on just online in general. But
It's giving you a chance to promote your stuff,
I
man.
know that there's nothing there to promote, right? It's just
Join the Discord is
yeah,
what
pretty
you mean,
much
right?
like this. We talk about it there a lot, but in terms of like concrete, this is like a course, or this is like a ebook. Like there, I don't have anything that comes to mind right now, but there's just so much information online, realistically, and in our Discord.
Are you planning on putting together a course to focus on something like that specifically?
Yeah, of course. Like we've put it in our ICM, which is our inner circle master class. We've done selling premium on day trading and swing trading bit
Hmm.
for, I believe it does come out in February, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, do you have a date?
The first one's already out. The
Okay.
second one probably on Monday.
You also have a free area now too. I think that was one thing I was really happy to see is that now people can go and like check out a couple of the courses just to see
Yeah,
what they're getting into.
yeah, exactly. We do have a free area membership on the website. You can see a bunch of videos from a bunch of lessons from our courses as well, to kind of understand what's going on. Right, when we do stuff, you're like those that side of the membership is gonna see it first before like the public, but after the actual
Hmm.
members naturally. But the there's we also have like a free Discord. It's like somewhat active, but the free member side, you get to see like what we have to offer, which uh coming very, very soon is going to be the new futures course that I'm super, super excited about, that the free members are going to have some access to as well. um so that's ideally coming out at the end of February too.
I'm looking forward to that one. So tell me what's going on with George.
What's going on with George?
Yeah, what's he up to?
George is. I'm not 100% sure. George just stepped out for a bit, doing some of the family stuff. And he's been in the room here and there, right? He lurks a bit here and there, but I think he's just taking a step back to focus on the family stuff. Let us young guys, me and Fatty, kind of go with Trade Pro and really develop like what our trading style is, right? I'd say
Yeah.
it's more systematic and more planned. So it's something that I'm super excited to be able to push out as well.
If you haven't heard by now, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right, once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to manscaped.com and using code 2bulls for 20% off and free shipping. Goddamn, I was going to make that joke. Our friends over at Manscaped were kind enough to send me the Beard Hedger Pro Kit, and I gotta say, I was impressed with the quality and performance of the products. My thick, coarse beard hair has been giving me trouble with trimmers in the past, but the Beard Hedger was able to cut through the thicket without any tugging or discomfort at all. And because the trimmer has one rotary wheel with 20 length settings with only one guard, I don't have to worry about losing or breaking attachments anymore. So I've tamed my mane, and now you can too. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with that beard hedger that I mentioned. The thing's a juggernaut of fixing faces. Not only does it have the trimmer with the rotary wheel that gives you the 20 hair cutting lengths on just the one guard, it's also waterproof so you can shave in the shower and avoid all the hair in the sink. The titanium coated T-blade is tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to a single stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. Phrasing. The Pro Kit doesn't end there though. They also created 4 dermatologist tested formulations for your post trim care. First is the beard shampoo and conditioner. Gotta remember that all your hair is different. Beard hair, as I mentioned, is more coarse and easier to damage than the hair on your head, if you have hair on your head. That's why the kit has made shampoo and conditioner specially designed to moisturize, reduce ingrown hairs, replace natural oils, and promote beard health. Next, the kit has Manscaped's Beard Oil, an essential piece for your main facial accessory. No one wants a guy whose beard is brittle and dry. The oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin beneath while adding a little shimmer and shine, which makes you look extra fine. Cap off the kit with the Beard Balm, a pomade that shapes, styles, moisturizes, and tames for a sculpted look to attract any fellows or dames. The Pro Beard Kit also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with code 2bulls at manscaped.com. Of course, that's the number 2. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using code 2bulls. Manscaped Beard Hedger, 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. I got to get Fady on here too at some point. I don't think I've ever had a chance to speak with him. I listened to some of the calls with him and like his style. I like his energy.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
seems like a good guy.
he's a
Yeah.
really, really good guy, good friend too. I was trying to get him out to Tenerife here. We'll see if that happens. I'm here for another like month, so
One of the awesome things though was that I think Fady was started as a member, right?
yeah, yeah, he did. He's from Toronto too, actually. Like I've met him a few times and we've hung out a few times as well. But yeah, he was a member. Uh, I think he's around my age, to be honest. If not my
Oh yeah.
age, like maybe like a year younger or a year older. I don't know, like my age. I don't
Hmm.
want to say. So he started off as a member and just like really took it and ran with it, and then now he just full time trades.
What did you think he did differently that other people can learn from?
I think he was just like, I'm not saying that other people aren't like super devoted and stuff, but like he really took it as like this is my new job, and like I'm gonna learn what like Trade Pro has to offer, but there's also things that need to be like tweaked to his personal trading, his personality, which I
Mm,
think a lot of people kind of miscalculate, which is something that I do want to address in this new course where that isn't necessarily the case anymore, right? Because it's less like discretionary and more systematic in terms of like
yeah.
what exactly it is, what we're like, what are we doing, what are we looking for, how are we doing it, so on and so forth. So I think he took it like a step beyond and thought that way from the beginning. Like what is it that fits his personality and his trading, and adapted what he had learned from the Trade Pro course into something that defined his edge. I think he was able to
Yeah.
define his edge quicker than most people, which is what it comes down to.
Well, it sounds like he made the realization that I wish I would have made a lot sooner, and that no two traders are the same, and the setups and styles, there's no right answer, right?
Yeah.
The only right answer is what you can do and follow consistently.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've found quote unquote a right answer that's easier for other people to comprehend. So it's something
Hmm.
that I'm putting out. I can't say it's going to be like the be all and end all for everyone, but it seems to be a very easy thing to kind of wrap your head around.
Right. Well, that and you combine it with, like, if you put in the work and you test it and you learn it, like, you start to learn the nuances of it, and you start to adapt it. It becomes yours. You know.
Yeah, and I think like Fatty understood trading and like the ES and order flow, I think quicker than others as well. That might have played a factor in that.
Yeah, like I said, order flow is my nemesis right now. Just because it.
It's not an easy task though. Like to be able to read the DOM, like you either have to have some kind of laser focus and be able to just like shift numbers in your head very quickly and understand what exactly is going on between the reactivity, or well, that and I should say not or and be able to sit there and look at a replay of a DOM every freaking night for a very long time and understand what's
Mm,
going on. The best way I can describe learning the DOM is when you're looking at the replay, right, throughout the day, find areas of inflection, right? Because find those big moves. Understand where the big moves come from. For example, today, if you look at a big move from 65, right, from
yeah.
41.65, you take that into account. You see, okay, from 41.65, let me just see how far did that move before I lie to you. 41.65, right? It drops down to 50, right? It's a 15-point move, right? You find
Yeah.
moves like that are 15, 20 points, and you reverse engineer them because you have to understand why this move happened based on order flow and where it happened from. And once you start doing that, you start going through pattern recognition when it comes through the reactivity of the DOM. Right. When you have that replay available, you see those big inflection points. Why did this market drop 20 points? Why did this market rise 50 points? Why did it go up 15
Hmm.
points? And when you look at that, you look at the DOM and you see those areas, those levels, and how they reacted, what they did. And you'll find a lot of patterns and consistency with those moves. And that's something that has to be done on a replay realistically, but it comes from finding those areas that had those big moves.
Interesting. That's I had not even considered that. I don't even know why. I think the biggest problem I think I've had with DOMs though is not necessarily like the identifying like interesting aspects of it. It's that it's too easy for me to overtrade when I spend too much time looking at it, and I have a hard time like not looking at it.
Because everything starts to look good on a DOM because the numbers are just
Yeah,
flashing, right? Like that's one of the main things, but also at the same time, right? There's a way where you can just have your levels, for example, on a chart. You have those defining like volume profile distributions that are like 10, 15 points apart. And you kind of hide the DOM until the price gets into that level and you start navigating the DOM
yep,
based on that, right?
that's exactly what I've been doing.
Perfect.
I will be adding though. I'm going to be adding the replay aspect of it too. I think that's a phenomenal idea, and I wish I thought of it.
Yeah, the replay, honestly, like there's no other way because like if you're not sitting in front of the computer, even if you are sitting in front of the computer all day looking at the DOM, are you
Hmm.
really gonna remember what had happened at those massive inflection points? Because they happen quickly, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, they do. Um, One of the other things you were a huge proponent of was journaling. I remember when you were doing the boot camp last year,
Yeah.
like there was a real come to Jesus moment where I thought you were going to murder people through the recording. Do you still find people I guess what's the word, like hesitant to start that, or have you made your point finally?
Yeah, man. No one journals. No one wants to do that shit. Like no one. I still. I like. I know that people don't journal. Like you can tell. Like it is what it is, though. That's like up to them at that point. But like I still think it's a pivotal fact. Like to be able to journal, go through it, go back, really intensively journal, understand exactly where your mistakes, what your wins were, and like be able to replay that on a DOM on another environment. Just look at the replay in general. Like I think that's like a huge fact. But like a lot of people just like they don't want to do it for some reason, and like that's up to
Well,
them. You
I
know,
think
like.
what it comes down to is the psychology. Like if you look at losers, then you're acknowledging them and you're allowing them to become real, right?
Yeah, sure, but, like, at the same time, it's just, like, any great person that does whatever extremely well, right? They do it through practice and, like, being able to, like, review their whatever
Right.
they do, right? Whatever it's like game tape for athletes, like that's the only thing that comes to mind. I don't know what anyone else does, but like I don't know. Give me an example. Like what other professions? Like
Chess. You review your games.
yeah, exactly. Like whatever it is, even like doctors and stuff, they're gonna review their like medical notes and everything, right? They gotta make sure everything's like in tip top shape,
Yeah.
right? It's if you're a performance type like I guess performance job, if you will, performance whatever this is, career.
You get paid based on how well you do.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're not gonna get better without reviewing and learning from those mistakes and like being able to adjust and grow from that, right? Because if you like sit down every day in front of the screen and you're like, all right, let's see what the hell happens today, right? And then once that ends, you just like close and you're like, all right, well, let's move on with my day, right? Like if you're doing poorly, you're not going to do any better, right? If you're kind of in the
Right.
middle and you're break even, you're not going to do any better. If you're doing good, then like maybe you get a god complex and it turns to shit at some point, or maybe it doesn't, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything has a shelf life in the markets. So if you're not constantly trying to improve, I think you end up getting passed by.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, I mean, look at the shifts that TradePro had to go through in this past year, like shifting to selling credit spreads rather than YOLOing Lotto Fridays. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a market, man. Like you got if you're not adapting to a market, like it's it's gonna bite you in the ass realistically, right? Like if I'm looking for a 30-point move for the rest of my life, like I don't think I'm gonna get them all the time. You know what I mean?
Right. You might have some really good years, but you might have some really shitty ones too.
Yeah, and then at the end of it all, it's just like you haven't done anything, right?
All right. So where are you at now?
In terms of,
Location.
I'm in Tenerife. I'm in the Canary Islands.
Where are the Canary Islands? For some reason, I
Is
do not.
it's right beside the Western Sahara. It's very close to Africa.
Oh, okay. So what made you go there?
It's a part of Spain. I like Spain, but I also like warmer weather. And anywhere else in Europe, I wasn't gonna get this kind of weather. Right now, it's
No,
their winter, so it's like it's not the craziest of warm weather, but like it's still like 20ish degrees on a daily basis, which
for
is
all of
I
us.
don't know how
Yeah,
much Fahrenheit that is. I'm gonna make me do
that's
some math here.
pretty much room temperature. It's probably like 70s, right?
I'd say so. Like room temperature sounds about right. Like let's see, 20 C to Fahrenheit. Yeah, about 68.
Yeah, that's decent for some wintertime.
It's solid. I was here in December actually for a month, and it was. You're gonna make me do this math 1 second.
I usually have a calculator that I can
It
flip over
was
to do my unit conversions.
in all of December. It was about 80 to 85 Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
So that was great. When I got
80 to
here
85.
to begin
Damn.
with, the first 2 weeks was about the same, and then once February hit, it got a little more rainy season. But I think like next week it's gonna shape up again. But like I honestly just wanted somewhere that was like at least this warm, so I could evade winter because I don't do any winter sports. I have a ACL surgery, so
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me you're supposed to be getting that done.
yeah, I got it done in April of well, I guess 2022, and like the recovery is still slow and grindy, but we're getting there. So I can't really do much activity. So I figured why not be somewhere hot and work from home.
I'm just wondering why you didn't go check out Texas or Arizona or Florida.
Because that's still in North America. I want it to be in Europe.
Ah, I gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Okay, I got to ask you a Canadian question. I know you're not there anymore and probably can't put in a good word for me, but
let's hear it.
I heard they changed some rules so where if you like even have a DUI on your record, like you can never go back to Canada.
What?
Is that
I
true?
have no idea.
I heard Dan Cummins, I think, talking about it on his podcast. He said he can't do shows in Canada because he had a DUI.
I, pff, that's I don't know. I don't know.
I was wondering if that was just something you guys did because when Trump won the election, everybody said they're going to move to Canada. I thought maybe that was.
And they're like, wait, I can't.
It was like, no, no, no DUIs, no criminal
Honestly,
records.
I
All you guys stay home.
don't think so. I know. Well, does that work for Canadians as well? Do they like kick them out of the country if they have DUIs?
No, I don't think so.
So, like, if you're a foreigner
And
with a
here,
DUI, you
yeah,
can't enter Canada.
that's what I mean, as far as I know. But
I don't know. I'd be,
here, I don't know if that's just has to do with visas or if that means like you can't even cross the border. That was what I was hoping you'd clarify for
oh,
me.
that's I don't know.
Here, I'll just Google it. Can I enter Canada? Oh, fucking thing must be listening to me.
Was it the first thing that popped up?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Let's see. You have to identify for a travel waiver. Holy shit. As a result, DUI is considered serious criminality. In the previous law, any conviction is removed from record after 10 years, but that changed in 16, I think. Or 18, must have been.
Interesting.
Yep, so I guess I won't be visiting George anytime soon. I was in the Navy. I made some mistakes.
I feel like that's passable though.
I know, right? All right, so let's shift gears here and talk a little bit about what you think's going to happen next year. I remember you made some pretty good predictions for us when we did the Festivus recording. I mean, I think you called the top a little bit higher than what it actually ended up being, but I mean, you're still pretty goddamn close.
Yeah, this is like one of the most I think unreadable markets that I think a lot of people have seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like this either we've bottomed right now or we're getting the craziest bear market rally of all time, which I think is the case right now. I think this is one of the most hated rallies.
Right.
I don't know how far it can go realistically. I think we've topped out, maybe a bit higher max, but I think they might try to pull it back up around 4K on the SPX, which is
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what on the futures. We can find out on the futures.
It's pretty close to the same.
Like
I don't think it was that much different.
yeah, like
Maybe 10 points.
yeah, maybe like 10ish points, like around 4K, right? Maybe another 100 point drop
Yeah.
in the futures, and I'd expect to see some kind of buy side, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
some people are talking about like 4300s before we see any lower, but I don't necessarily think the market's bottomed out. If it has bottomed out, I do think we dip close to the lows again. I just think that on a macro perspective, it's a little harder to say that the market's bottoming out. Like the narrative between the Fed soft landing versus
Yeah.
hard landing, right? Like the narrative of a soft landing, which a lot of people are focused on and hoping for, I think is slightly increasing the probability of that, but I don't necessarily think it's the biggest probability. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's still the issue of the I'd say average inflation readings, right? Inflation, quote unquote, has peaked. It honestly looks like it's been peaking.
Yeah.
But inflation is also cyclical, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. Who knows, right? The next inflation print, if it's a hot print, I think they go back to 50, 75 basis point hikes, and that's when we start to see
Oof.
some real trouble. That inflation print is next week, by the way,
Okay.
on February. I think it's on the 14th on Valentine's Day. It might not be. It might be on the 12th. I don't know. It's one of the. It's not on the 12th. It's on the 13th or the 14th, something like that.
CPI is usually on. Is it on Wednesdays or Thursdays?
I think it's usually on Wednesdays and then PPI on Thursdays.
Yeah. Okay. So it should be the 15th then.
So one of those days, it doesn't really matter that
Yeah.
much. We'll see it when we get there. But the the overall reading, in my perspective, is that from a macro perspective, like retail, industrial production, right, all that, like housing, credit, just all of that is kind of building up for this not being the bottom. Like I think they haven't
Right.
really resolved a lot of those issues, right? We still have fairly high inflation, and for it to get subdued back into Fed levels, I think it'd take at least like another half a year to a year. Which, if the Fed doesn't stop tightening, right, it's very hard to see a market bottom. If
Mm-hmm.
they continue tightening by 25 bips, then you know what, like that's it's okay. It's not anything outrageous. But if they start gearing up to 50 and 75 again, I think that's when we see lows. If that
Yeah.
happens, right, if they continue to tighten by 25 and we get above the 5% mark this year, that's fine. I think there's still a narrative for a soft landing in that case, where we might see the low again. We might see just barely under the low, or we might just kind of pull back, and then it could be just green skies ahead, like Tom Lee wants. But overall, I think from a macro perspective, it's a little difficult to say that we're in a bull market right now. I think there's more pain to come. It's just a matter of when is this going to happen? Is it going to happen before we see 43, 4,500, or is it going to be after we see those levels, right? And I know a
Right.
lot of people are like, oh my God, like missing out on this rally. They're getting FOMO and getting long at these tops. A lot of retail, at least. Like I don't think institutional money's been blasting longs at these highs, right? They've been long for a while now, but
No, the I was watching the futures. The sell off when we topped out just was it close to 4,200? Like the strength and veracity that they came in at that point was something that looked pretty impressive.
You know what my fill on that was? 42.05 quarter.
Oh wow, you must have banged that one.
It wasn't a crazy profit. It wasn't the whole sweep, but I was very, very proud of that.
One of the things that you told me when we were just kind of chit chatting before the recording was that like, how can you be bullish with the Fed not pivoting yet? Like until the Fed pivots, I think you'd said like that's
Yeah, because that's what this whole market's kind of like hinging on realistically. The Fed brought it up, the Fed's going to bring it down, the Fed's going to level it, and it's going to let it ride again. Like when the Fed is tightening, they're pulling money supply out of this market, right? Like why would you be getting aggressively long thinking this is a low, right? Until the Fed changes their policy, it's hard to call a bottom, right? And if the Fed changes their policy like aggressively within the next like 3 months and 3,500 is the lowest that we've seen, then so be it. That's the bottom. But you're not going to be confident until something like that happens, right? And I'd rather be late on
right.
the long by like 10-15% than get sliced through multiple times over to the downside, right?
Yeah. What's the thing George used to say? Bottom pickers get smelly
Yeah,
fingers.
exactly. I don't mind bottom picking at a lower level though. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah. You're not going to bottom pick at the same level.
Yeah, I have like 3,300 set in mind, honestly. Like, I don't know if we get there, but like that's an area where I wouldn't mind bottom picking.
3,400, I think, was the one I kept watching for. Are you looking at the one of the gaps? No, the gaps been filled. The pre-COVID high was basically the mark that I've been watching.
Yeah, that's an achievable region. There's also an area like for me, it's between 3,300 and 3,200, right? There's a
Hmm.
few like spikes there that held out from October 2020 or September 2020,
Okay,
whatever that case is. So
right.
it's the bottom of the distribution that created the pre-COVID high. So the top of that
Hmm.
distribution is around 3,400. The bottom of the distribution is around 3,200. So within
Oh
that
yeah, okay.
region is an area that I wouldn't mind just being long for the long term. Realistically, like if we start pulling back and there's signs of like really inflation subduing and the Fed leaning less hawkish, then you know what? I wouldn't mind starting to buy things at like 3,700, which I still think by the end of the quarter we see that 3,800 region again. It's a bold call, but I think we're
Hmm.
kind of topping out here at this point. I could be wrong naturally, but
Well, here's the thing. I mean, like if you're talking about long-term investing anyway, like anything lower than today is going to be a better deal for you, especially if you're holding it for 15, 20 years.
yeah, realistically, but I also want to be able to like somewhat time it so like the Fed doesn't come out and raise
Right.
75 basis point next meeting and I get like destroyed.
um, Actually, you mentioned not being a bull market. I think Kramer we talked about was trying to say that just if you take out tech, the big tech names that everyone's been watching, then everything else is in a bull market.
like
What are your thoughts on that?
like I
Please rip Kramer.
like well, what the hell is he watching?
I don't know.
like like what I don't like what does he want me to type in right now? There are some names that have been sustaining really well, right? Great, but like if the whole market's not in a bull market, then like I don't really understand what's going on.
It's hard to like tech too when interest rates are still going
Yeah,
up.
like there are some names that have barely budged, some names that are even like close to all-time highs, like American Express, for example, one of my favorite holdings. Um,
Hmm.
just to plug that in. But
Yeah.
like there are some names naturally, like what was that one? UNH as well. UNH is like it's
Hmm.
sustaining pretty well. It's not at all-time highs, but it hasn't like dumped aggressively from its highs. There are names that are like low beta that are doing okay in this environment because we haven't had a catalyst that like just destroys everything, right? Tech is doing poorly because it's a high inflation environment, right? That's not their ball game.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Any growth stock is going to be hurting when money is more
Yeah,
expensive.
exactly. So it's a matter of like what your investment outlook is, right? If like you said, like in 20 if you have like 20 years, then like yeah, okay, anything lower than this price is probably going to be fine in the next 20 years. But I'm still cautious about if there can be one of those like significant catalysts that comes into this market and kind of stirs things up, you know?
So you don't think the Golden Cross was that?
Oh my god.
Oh, so Dad brought up the stats on that. He's like 70% of the time it was higher. What about the other 30%? It crashed.
This could be one of the 30%. The Fed's been hiking for like a year now, like their quantitative tightening, quote unquote. Like it's just
The
like
30%. The dates he gave me was like Black Monday and like the like bad sell-offs.
like you know what they say, like don't fight the Fed.
I never heard that, but I definitely agree with it.
If the Fed is hawkish and they're tightening, and a lot of the Fed members see rates above 5% this year, it's not necessarily something that I wanna deal with, right? It's not something that I wanna call bottoms on
So,
just yet. Like I didn't buy anything at the 3,500, right? Could
mhm.
have I? Yeah, probably. But like it's more of a me waiting for the Fed to kind of flip things around, or
Clarify.
me waiting for some kind of economic relief, right? Like for the economy
Yeah.
to actually look strong. Right now, if big tech banks, right, if they're laying people off, banks
Mhm.
are like
Yeah.
internally not giving raises nor bonuses, right? Like there's turmoil in the jobs market. It's not necessarily the ideal setup for me calling a bull market, right?
Yeah. Although there are still, I mean, the jobs have been fucking phenomenal for still somehow.
Yeah, in depends on what industries you're looking at. I think the jobs number that came out on what was it, last Friday, at the
Hmm.
first Friday of February, that was like ridiculous. It was adjusted for something. Those numbers are not, I would say, the average or the true nature of the jobs added. Right, 500,000 blowout versus
Right.
190,000 comparable. Right, it's
Yeah. Yeah. Something was, I was just wondering if we're going to see an adjustment to that, like, 12 months down the road. Like, oh no, we actually lost half a million.
we're probably going to see an adjustment next month.
Yeah.
And like even if you look at one of the best indicators of all time for a market flip in a bear market, right? You're looking at the 10 and 2 years yield, right? The spread.
Hmm.
It's still negative.
Oh, it is still negative?
Yeah,
I thought the bond markets were pricing in rate cuts this year.
they can be. That's fine, but it doesn't make it any positive.
Fair enough. Oh boy, shit. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you about. Oh, you spoke to the tightening, and I assume you're talking about the balance sheet reduction.
Yeah.
For the last I had checked it, I mean, they say they're reducing the assets, but it really looks like they barely scratched the surface of like even starting to unwind any of that.
Yeah, because they're still introducing some type of I'm no economist, right? This is not my forte in terms of monetary policy, but like they're still introducing some kind of quantitative easing with the tightening, so it kind of balances out to be like a slightly net negative.
Hmm. Okay, that's what they're doing.
Um,
Do you think that
yeah.
they're going to pivot to that and really try to start unwinding that balance sheet with more authority? Maybe once inflation gets under
Well,
control.
they're just like allowing like the bonds to mature realistically, like the
Okay,
ones that had been set prior. So
yeah.
like
So just letting them fall off as they hit.
yeah, like I think they have a lot of tightening to do to actually get that thing back to pre-COVID level. I don't think that's their goal naturally, but like
I don't know that that's achievable at this point.
I don't. Yeah, it's not a goal. It's not achievable. But like, I think they'd have to do a little more than just raise rates right now and just slightly unwind this thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No kidding. All right. Last thing before we wrap up, then, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
You can find me at TradePro Academy, honestly, at tradeproacademy.com. We got a new futures course coming out. It's going to be exceptional. I'm putting a lot of work into it. There's probably going to be around 20 lessons on it.
Hmm.
We're talking everything about we're breaking down pretty much everything about the futures market, how to actually develop a concrete trading plan based on order flow, the DOM specifically, and volume profiles, along with strategies, and everything is you can implement it. You can also check us out at Discord. Again, it's going to be on Trade Pro Academy, the website. Discord, where we honestly post trades and trade ideas, setups, reviews on the futures market and options market daily and consistently. You can also find me at Torio Trades on Twitter. Check that out. I'll post some things there. I'm going to try to post a little more DOM videos there,
Hmm.
and get you guys a little more educated on volume profiles and DOMs, because that's how I like to trade.
It's the golden ticket. I love it. We'll have links for all that stuff in the episode description. And then I think once that course drops, do you want to do reconvene after I had a chance to go through some of them?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe talk about some of the stuff that we learned.
100%.
All right, love to do that. All right, folks. Unfortunately, is going to take us to the end of the episode. Vico has got sunbathing to do over in the Canary Islands. I'm sure there's plenty of beaches and bottles that need to be down.
Exactly.
I want to say thank you for stopping by and for supporting us for, I think our friendship's probably been going on for about 2 years plus now at this point.
I appreciate that, man. Like, thanks for having me on again. It's been a long time. I always love being on these. I always enjoy the invite whenever the time is convenient for both of us, because recently I've been pretty busy, but always love being on these.
I promise I won't let it go another year before I get you back on.
I can make that promise too. It goes both ways.
Right. All right, folks. Thanks again for sticking around to the end. We'll be back soon with another exciting episode. Like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Until then, take care.
Thanks for having me on, and I'll see you guys in another episode.
Bye.
Two Bulls in a China Shop is an entertainment program, and all thoughts and opinions expressed in the show belong to the hosts and not of any company. They are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security or investment product. It is only intended to provide entertainment about stocks in the financial industry of trading. If you make trades based on what you hear in this show, you assume all risks for those trades.